$454 million bond in that New York civil case. New York Attorney General Letitia James could start seizing his assets today. The media and Democrats are now full steam ahead on the Trump trashing train.
The Republican nominee, who also is a self-professed billionaire, that's an important part, Donald Trump, has a substantial cash problem, and a big one. If there is one thing that Donald Trump loves, it's other people's money.
The easiest option facing Donald Trump is the prospect of bankruptcy.
They know about all of the foolishness. They know about all of the corruption and everything that Donald Trump is, because there's people who want the bad guy to be president.
Fox News contributor Joe Concha says he hopes the Democrats keep this up because they are going to put Donald Trump back in the White House.
I mean, if Letitia James actually goes ahead and starts seizing Trump assets, padlocking doors, walking workers out of Trump Tower or out of Golf Course X up in New York State, all while having, this big smile on her face, and she's basically publicly twerking that, oh, this is a great thing that we're embarrassing this guy. She will, and you can save the tape, clinch Donald Trump's victory in November and his return to the Oval Office.
A former Justice Department attorney says it is possible that President Donald Trump may use the Eighth Amendment to argue against excessive fines in the New York State civil case against him. Chad Groening has more.
Trump announced on Friday that he has nearly $500 million in cash, suggesting that he could afford the bond in the New York case brought by the state's Attorney General Letitia James. Today is the deadline to secure the bond or face possibly having his assets seized by the AG. Trump and his legal team have appealed and requested a stay on his $454 million civil fraud judgment. Many observers have suggested Trump should challenge based on the Eighth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution related to excessive fines. J. Christian Adams is a former Justice Department attorney who is founder and chief counsel of the Public Interest Legal Foundation.
The Eighth Amendment applies to civil cases when excessive fines are imposed if they violate a test that the Supreme Court has put down, such as the scope of the issue involved and the ability to pay the fines. So there are some limits on what can be imposed as a civil fine.
And Adams says as far as President Trump's case...
As far as President Trump's case goes, it means if he raises these issues on appeal, appellate courts can look at the question whether or not the fine is on its face excessive. Does it seem right? And I think that's going to be the question, if it's raised on appeal, that's going to have to be dealt with.
Adams says Trump's notoriety may or may not compel the U.S. Supreme Court to ultimately weigh in on the case. I'm Chad Groening.
U.S. stocks are ticking lower so far at the start of what will be a shortened trading week. More news online at AFN.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty P.
Well, good evening, everyone, anywhere, wherever you are. If you're watching First Amendment Radio at a little after 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight on the other coast for all of you true night owls out there. Welcome to the broadcast tonight. Let's see. It begins. Genetic modification is in the room already, the Rumble chat room, that is. And I have fixed the phone so you can call or text at the same number. That number right there on the screen. So imagine that. And if someone calls me on the old line, well, I'm going to get rid of the old line after we make sure the new line works pretty good. But I did some testing earlier today, and it all sounded very good. So be the first one to call in or text, whatever you want to do. If you don't want anyone to hear your voice, you can text comments, questions, links, whatever you want. It just works like a regular text on your phone, on your smartphone, that is. And you can also call now. I've got it. I think I have it right. Okay. Let's, Shelly R. in the chat room. Good to see you here. I'm guessing that's, you just showed up in the First Amendment Radio chat room there. Okay, a couple people. That's good. And there are people watching. So thank you for just showing up. Let's take a look at Babylon Bee. It's a good place to start the evening, so we will do that. Boy, this looks like, yeah, that's today's date, so it's not yesterday's, but okay. Meghan Markle announces Netflix show about how hard it's been dealing with Kate Middleton's cancer diagnosis. Yes. Poor Meghan Markle. I think it's all about her, don't you? Moving on. Okay. She announced this morning that she would be releasing a new show on Netflix to reveal the terrible difficulties she has faced dealing with it. There you go. Okay. 7 super helpful things parents yell at kids' baseball games. This says today's date, but somehow it all sounds familiar. Is Babylon Bee beginning to sound the same every day? I need a better or another funny channel. So I'm going to be looking for good jokes, funny stuff, so we can move beyond the Babylon Bee. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes I laugh at all of them, and sometimes I laugh at none of them. But I guess if you don't look, you don't know whether you're going to laugh or not, right? So let's check it out. Yes, I am all for child sports and even family sports. You know, like if you have a family reunion or something, you can play darts or horseshoes or baseball if you got enough to make a couple teams. You don't even need full teams. So I'm all for that kind of sports. Yeah. For fun. Family and friends kind of fun. Even the churches. So that they can fellowship with other congregations. That used to be a popular thing. I wonder what's happened to that. Okay. We'll check it out anyway. Here we go. Okay. A veritable litany of sage advice pours forth from the stands of every Little League baseball game, but some nuggets of wisdom rise above the rest. Here are 7 of the most helpful things parents scream during their kids' baseball games. 1, watch the ball. A remarkable insight gleaned from decades of experience. Keep your eye on the ball, right? Number 2, throw strikes. Well said, Dad. I guess that's for the pitcher. 3, stop playing with your cup. Wise counsel, though difficult to achieve. Number 4, we need a hit. Parental knowledge on full display. Any parents out there identify with any of this stuff? Good to see you two over there, Mike, in the other chat room, in the YouTube chat room, all by himself. I'm sure somebody will show up to keep him company over there. Okay, let's see. We need a hit. Number 5, be ready out there. Simple yet timeless wisdom. Number 6, watch your launch angle and try to keep your exit velos up while pulling the inside pitch in the hot portion of the gray chart of your spray chart. That's a pretty complicated thing to yell. Yeah, obviously. Number 4, hit a touchdown. Thanks, Mom. There you go. So if you would have a piece of favorite advice you'd love yelling at the Little League fields, let us know. Yeah, so they can do part 2, right? Just what we need. Nah, I think that was enough. What do you guys think? Okay. Do we have more wisdom from Babylon B? Squat B&B. Finally. I heard it was coming, but here it is. A genuine ad for Squat B&B. That's right. New Squat B&B service helps squatters find perfect home to take over. And is that a thing? Is that, I mean, you got these entrepreneurs coming from other countries saying, I'm going to start a business. This will be a squatting business. We're going to take over homes and rent them out. Squat B&B service helps squatters find perfect home to take over. Yeah, I was watching David Knight today, and he had a guy who had a perfect solution for if you find squatters in your home, okay, or in your mom's home or somebody's home, you show up with a lease, a bona fide lease signed by the owner of the property, and you move in with your squatters, and you make life miserable for them, or you get them kicked out because you don't have rights as the owner of the property, but as a tenant you have more rights than a squatter. Yeah, so tenants' rights trump squatter rights, and squatter rights trump landlord rights. See how that works? So that's one way. Yeah. Okay. Yes, with squatters news, we know it's the end times. Do we? Used to be, in the olden days, if someone wanted to take your place, all they had to do is show up with more guns or be tougher than you. They used to call it warfare or whatever. At least, coming to America, we can tell America's at its end because lawlessness is becoming a thing. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, Shuhei Ohtani. I'm guessing that's the baseball players, the Dodgers player there. Concerned about effect betting scandal will have on his World Series bets. Yeah. And, see, not another Phil Wickham song. Mutter angels as local church starts worship set. Yeah, I guess that's the new Christian music. And yes, it is probably somewhat distressing for the angels, though I doubt that they would ever use a replacement expletive like the one on the screen there. Yeah, I try to avoid those myself also, as well as the real expletives, though I have to say I don't always succeed. There are circumstances where an expletive does come out of my mouth, but those are few and far between. Yeah. It's like they say, it's you could take the slave out of Egypt, but it's hard to take Egypt out of the slave, and we're all somewhat slaves, at least until our mortal bodies are redeemed. That fallen nature likes to pop out its head every chance it gets, does it not? So, Epicus, good to see you in the Rumble chat room over there. Let's see what you're saying with genetic modification. Evening, boys and girls. Parents in hockey are 25 times meaner. You would think people not in their houses would be selling them cheap rather than lose them to a squatter. Well, there are people now that are helping squatters helping people get squatters out of their homes. So I think if it starts moving to your neighborhood, the property owners need to band together and just move in on the squatters. That's all. Hey, if they can squat, I can squat too. Just wait for them to leave, then you move in and squat. And put all their stuff out on the lawn. When they come back with the police, nobody was here when I squatted. So, and then you could even have a lease from the owner of the property saying, but see, I'm a new leasee. Yeah. So there are ways, clever ways to deal with the problem. But numbers and help is always helpful. Yes, depending on your squatters. But yeah, people will come up with what to do. Yeah, with good ideas on how to take care of the situation. Okay, let's see. What else do we got? Oh, that's all we got from Babylon Bee. So we're going to have to look at our next tab here and see what else we got. And meanwhile, I had a question for everyone listening that wants to respond, since most people don't. And so my question is, if you're a Christian, why do you think that you're a Christian? Is that too difficult a question for me to pose? Or how dare you question me? No, it's just, I want to know how people know that they're Christian. So what makes you think that you're a Christian? Or what things make you think you're a Christian? Just want to get some ideas of people's thinking out there. Next, let's go to see what I've got here. We got not the bee. Okay, scientists make pivotal discovery that could lead to the cure for AIDS. After decades of hard labor, the end may finally be in sight for the incurable HIV. Yeah, I'm not going to say too much about that because I really don't know enough about it. But I know Fauci, the same guy that was working on that other thing, that he had a lot to do with working on AIDS and another disaster preceding the last disaster. So not going to say much about that. CRU, formerly Campus Crusade for Christ. Okay, CRU. Fired 2 of its employees after they voiced concerns about the group's stance on LGBT issues. CRU, which used to be Campus Crusade for Christ, has been on a liberal drift for quite some time. Like seemingly all Christian ministries, the spirit of the age with LGBTQ issues seems to be more than the organization could stand. Let's see. And now if you don't agree with this Christian organization's positions on rainbow issues, then you're going to have a tough time. CRU fires 2 employees who went public with their concerns about teaching on LGBTQ issues. The Mundells question CRU's allowance for gay identity labels like gay Christian and preferred pronouns. U.S. briefs, crew employees fired. The Coopers dismissed Uriah and Marissa Mundell after they publicly voiced concerns. Oh, what a sad, sad day. Another Christian ministry fallen. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, Lord, help us and help them. And, yeah. See, Uriah and Miss Odell, who work in Austin, voiced their concerns over the policy. 2 weeks later, the organization formerly known as Campus Crusade for Christ terminated their employment. Yes, they were fired for standing for their Christian convictions. Originally, they were told that the difference in opinion wasn't going to prevent them from being employed, but since their disagreement became public, the Mundells were axed by the Christian organization. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Raise concerns. question whether it's scriptural to allow the staff to adopt the labels, because you have to lie. You have to believe in a lie, and you have to propagate a lie. And we as Christians are not called on to propagate and to believe and spread lies, even if it makes someone else happy. Yeah, there are a lot of evil things that make a lot of evil people happy, but we can't do them simply. I mean, our calling is not to make everybody else happy. Yeah, that's not the calling of Christianity. And my question of the day is, why do you think you are a Christian? Yeah. And I'm wondering if I'll get any answers answers to that. Why do you think you're a Christian? All right. Have you ever seen a moving rock wall? Says, man, I love this. I'll never use one because I'd seriously injure myself, but I love the idea of it, like other people who are in shape. Yeah. No rock climbing in my future, unless absolutely necessary. I can't even imagine it being necessary for anything. Well, do we take a chance? Your name and where are you calling from? This phone will discontinue being used in 3, 2, 1. There you go. I'm just saying whatever comes to my mind. Okay, CNN says Biden has big problems after losing support from voters of color in swing states. See, it doesn't matter what color you are. Common sense can win out. I mean, how many parents really want their children to transition in public schools? 0, I hope. I mean, there are a few idiots out there that truly, more than a few. One is too many. Okay. Yes, I have to say it. Maybe I agree with CNN. Biden has big problems. Hey, CNN is even saying it. Voters of color? Okay, enough of that. 2 young teens stole a Georgia deputy's gun and tried to shoot him with it, leading to a massive manhunt. Yes, more lawlessness. When I was a teenager, the worst I did was maybe light a fire in a trash can or two, maybe spray paint something on an abandoned building. That was about the worst thing I did, too. I did start a fire on a hill someplace. See, Poland is preparing to abolish homework for students in primary school. Polish kids over there are living the life we all wish we had when we were their age. Why are they abolishing homework? Yeah, that used to be a thing, didn't it? Ah, yes, Guy Fawkes have made their debut. Has. And genetic modification has jumped chat rooms. Okay, let's see. Yep, everything looks good. We're running well. Oh, Canadian woman finds a live grenade while going through her deceased father's belongings. Wow, it's a good thing she didn't pull the pin and throw it. But if you do pull the pin, make sure you throw it. That's for sure. Well, deceased father's belongings hit a live grenade since World War II. Kedron Sims Brockman said that she was cleaning out her late father's tool room at his Quebec home when she opened his toolbox and found a grenade loose inside. And, yeah, that's what a find. It's a good thing it wasn't found by an illegal alien, right? Indeed, that's that. Okay. Well, I guess it was Guy Fawkes on the phone. Good thing Guy Fawkes didn't have the grenade. I'd have to be looking out. But I need someone to call me, because I called myself earlier and it seemed to work all right. So if somebody can call this number right here and to just test for the first time to see how the new line works, whether it works better than the old one, and then I'll know that it works. All right. I know everybody's afraid to speak on radio, TV, right? I do remember my first time going on radio, way back in the middle of the 1990s, when I first went on radio. I don't know what I was nervous about, but after a while, yeah, I was no longer nervous about it. Okay, well, Not the Bee is done, so we finished The Bee, and we finished Not the Bee. So where do we go next? We go to, somebody's going to try it now. All right, let me see. I accept the call. And your name and where you're calling from? Hello. Unknown number. Call in call, 0 minutes of talk time remaining. It says 8 point. What on earth was that? Well, that's my tone, says my time is up. But can you hear me? See, I should not accept unknown numbers. Because that's suspecting. This is probably Guy Fawkes calling on my new number. Well, at least I know he's really listening. Yeah. What do you think? Okay, well, I'll be back in a few minutes. Secrets of the Rapture. Is there a 500-year-old conspiracy? A propaganda machine so pervasive and entrenched, yet so elusive that the entire world could be taken in by it, working in plain sight, but unseen by the world for what it truly is? If prophecy is God-given history in advance, why does the prophecy that has conquered the age also exclude nearly 2,000 years of history? What is it that they are afraid that the light of history will reveal? To understand our place in time and prophecy, we must look in history for an interpretation, that which stands the test of time, that which agrees with the Word of God, and history has proven to be true. When cunning fables and fearful speculations are removed from our sight, then we may clearly see what is truly expressed in Bible prophecy, both that which has been fulfilled and that which has yet to come. God's express word is the sword that must be wielded to remove the scales from the eyes and dispel the darkness of deceitful conjecture. Secrets of the Rapture was written to expose that which the spirit of the age has conjured out of the darkness to blind the eyes of the church in the world today. Secrets of the Rapture, Deconstructing Pre-Tribulation Dispensational Futurism by yours truly, Nicholas Arthur, is now available at lulu.com and Amazon. Secrets of the Rapture.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back. Well, let's see. One person did answer my question. The question is, why do you think you're a Christian? And Epicus in the Rumble chat room said, because God opened my eyes to the truth and I fell in love with Him and His plan. I despise this world, but the truth of it made perfect sense of it. There is no other place to turn. I never wanted anything from this world. Kept out of it, can't bring myself to the level of violence, falsehood, ruthlessness required to excel in it. Can't wait for the renewal. Sounds good to me, Epicus, because, God opened my eyes, and I read His Word. When I read His Word, He opened my eyes to the truth, and I fell in love with Him and His plan. I think it's a great plan. Why? Because I don't have to die, except my old flesh has to die, but I will be resurrected from the dead and I will live forever. And God loved me so much that He sent His only Son to pay the price for my sins. I mean, what's not to love about that plan? Yeah. And as the scripture says, yes, I will love Him because He loved me first. And there's none of us that could have ever loved Him first. He always is the first. He says, I am the first and the last. Yeah. So there you go. That's that. And I just decided while I was going into the break there that if an unknown number shows up, I'm simply going to hang up and or cancel it. I'm not going to mess around. Yeah. Anyone who wants to hide their number. On the other phone, I couldn't tell, but this one I can. So, but I do have the number from someone who called last time. I wrote it down here, but I saved it and I put ghost on it. So if I see that number calling, and I'll try one more. I'll give someone 2 tries, and then I'll rename them cancel. Because once I cancel a number, because if someone doesn't talk to me, but still no one's called in since I got my line working today. I guess I have to wait till Wednesday, because I know a couple people will call in then, because they do. So I can always count on Fireman Mike from Ohio. Yeah, he'll call me. So don't make me wait till Wednesday. Here we go. We have a real number, and I will accept. And can you hear me?
Hello, Dick.
Hey, I can hear you. Who am I talking to?
This is Big Red.
Oh. Whose wife?
I think my line is long-time listener, first-time caller.
Okay. What was your name again?
Big Red. Alias
Oh, in the chat room. Yeah, Mick in the chat room. Okay. Hey, thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it. Do I sound good on this? How's my sound? Yeah, there is a little delay. So, yeah, there is a delay. So you kind of have to pause.
Okay, learning that. But all right, keep up the good work, and pleasure listening in on your session.
All right. All right, Mick. I really appreciate you calling in, man. Thanks. Thanks a bunch. Bye. Okay. Well, it was that simple. Yeah. And that was Mick. I got to hear his voice. And otherwise Mike in the chat room. Mick Rent in the chat room, otherwise Mike in real life. Okay, so do appreciate the call, Mike. Oh, let's see. And I know you told me the chat room where you were from before, but I can't remember. I like to know that to kind of get an idea where people are calling from. So now we know the new phone line works and it sounds great. You just have to wait a second because there's a little delay. Kind of like on Skype sometimes. If you watch people doing Skype interviews, you know that they completely stop and they allow the allow the other speaker to catch up. So that's kind of what you got to do with this. It's kind of the same thing. It's an IP phone line and text on my computer. Calling in. Oh yes, Long Beach. That's right. I do remember that from Long Beach. And I'm going to write it down so I don't forget it. I find if I write something down, I remember it a lot easier. There's something about writing it. So I got Mike or Mick Rent from Long Beach. Yes, another Californian. We love the land. We hate the government. Isn't that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's see what else we got. We have I have a few things that I have a couple news items I'm saving for the last hour, but I'm going to look at what is it? Redacted right now. This is what we get from Redacted today. Yes. Okay. Happy Monday. Name calling is the name of the game in the 2024 presidential elections. Sleepy Joe is testing out Broke Don on the camping trail as a hit against Donald Trump. What do you think? Broke Don. You know what I think? I think people will hate him for it because the White House is behind all of these things that are going on. We know about the meetings with the prosecutors at the White House. We have pictures and records of the meetings. We know that they're behind it. So if he's broke down, and what's he bragging about? What? He's not broke because he's getting millions of dollars from the Chinese government? That's just one way that the Antichrist is funneling money to our traitor president. So, I mean, not clever at all. I mean, it's probably Sleepy Joe who thought this one up himself, testing out Broke Don. But unfortunately for him, Don is not nearly broke. I think his fortune just doubled with his True Social going public. So, yeah, so who's really broke? Yeah, I'll tell you what, when your whole life revolves around corruption, you're the one who's really broke. And for someone like Joe Biden, there ain't no fixing that broke. Yeah, no fixing that broke. Okay, in case you missed it, at least 11 people have been detained in relation to the terror attack on Moscow that killed at least 137 people, including 4 children. Very sad, just really a sad thing to see this kind of terror attack taking place in any country. And, I mean, I had to stop and pause and pray for, the families, the people that lost loved ones. I mean, 137 people killed going to a concert, and including 4 children. Very, very sad that we have people in the world like this that even want to do things like this. See, a court in Spain has revoked access to Telegram as a precautionary measure. Okay, I have Telegram, but I just don't have time to use all this stuff. I need a what do you call it, social media. I need a producer who does social media too. Could take all of the First Amendment Radio social media stuff. I just can't keep up with this stuff. It's way, way, way too much. So next, NBC hired former Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel, and NBC talent is not happy about it. Certainly. I mean, the Republicans didn't like her. What makes these progressives think they're going to like her? Yeah. Sounds like a show that nobody showed up for. There you go. Let's see. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu told U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken that Israel will be invading Rafah no matter what. Well, they're a free country. They can do what they want, but a lot of these people, the U.S. government, like Antony Blinken thinks, so if we give them free money, they'll do whatever we want. No, they won't. They'll take your money, but they won't do what you want. You're stupid enough to give them money. Yeah, they're stupid enough to give them our money. Oh, see, France is on high alert after the terrorist attack in Moscow. Interesting. I guess we should all be on high alert all the time, as much as we can be. It's good to be aware of your surroundings continually. Yeah. At least someone in the family should be aware of your surroundings so that you might escape something like that once it starts up. But then you get someone going in there with, Continuing, crime on New York City subways is up 53% from last year. I think that's the thing we already know about. They have the National Guard on the subways now. I heard that. I hope it's doing some good. Got to keep law and order somehow. Oh, okay. Let me see. Let me check this. The things we intended. We can't hear him. Oh, you couldn't hear him. That's right. Because I have to. See, that's where now I got to get used to another thing because I have to turn on the sound. Like I do when I play a video. I have to turn on the sound for the video. So I also, it comes out of the same sound card. So I have to remember that if I'm going to take a call, I got to accept the call, then turn on the sound, make sure I turn off the sound before I go to commercial break. Otherwise I get echo sound. Sounds pretty cool if you're on drugs. But yeah, we want to avoid that. So thanks for that reminder there, Epicus, in the chat room, that you couldn't hear you could probably hear him a little bit out of my microphone from the speaker, but yes, I get it. I will try to remember. I'll put a Post-it note up over there on my computer where that screen is. Sound. Yes, something like that. Okay. But that's what it takes to be your own producer. Okay. Next. 6 senior Democrats sent a letter to President Biden asking him to suspend military aid to Israel. Well, I'm all for that. I don't think we should be giving any aid to Israel. Not when they have a budget surplus. They can fight their own little civil war that they got going on there with their own homegrown insurgency. It's theirs. They're responsible for it. They should have to pay for it themselves. See, AOC was not one of them. She only pretended to be anti-war on the campaign trail. Whatever. It's a little girl in Congress because she reminds me of like a 15-year-old California girl. That's what she reminds me of. Like she has no clue what she's doing or talking about. So I think she worked at a fast food restaurant or something, didn't she? When she was, she won I forget, something. Yeah, she won a contest or something to run for Congress, something like that. Next, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will go to China in April. Wow, if only she would stay there. Yeah. Yes, if only she would stay there. If anyone wants to call in, the number's on the screen. I'll give it now in case you're not looking at the screen. It's 559-543-8470. And if your number is hidden, I will not accept your call. That's that. So don't even bother. Okay, let's see. Next, yes, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will go to China and in April, and I hope she stays there and never comes back. Okay, Singapore asked the Israel embassy to remove a Facebook post about the Quran that it called an astonishing attempt to rewrite history. Interesting. Yes, I'm not going to go look at it. I'm not that interested, but people will do what they will do. Let's see, gold is down, but still about the same. Oh no, it was up. It hit 2,200, so it's down to 2,168. So, yeah, but the old high will be the new low. That's the way it works, especially today. The old high will soon be the new low. So silver's up, still about $24, nothing to get excited about. Bitcoin still about the same, $66,000. But when World War III really starts and the internet goes down over half the world, Bitcoin will be worth nothing. That's right. When Christ comes, Bitcoin will be worth nothing. There you go. Moving on. Lead. Okay, America's new anti-gun department, National Extreme Risk Protection Order, ERPO Resource Center, a tool to save lives. The Justice Department launched a sweeping new power law called the National Extreme Risk Protection Rescue Center. Sounds like a lot because it gives them the power to train, assist, and advise on laws for pretty much every government and non-government agency in the name of keeping guns out of the hands of people who pose a threat to themselves or others. There you go. So, and not to mention the millions of dollars that was in that omnibus bill for gun control. Only they gave it to the CDC and the WHO and a couple of other, they were all private or non-U.S. gun control efforts that will work in America, and some gun control groups, private gun control groups. Isn't that nice to know that bill they passed, that omnibus bill, that's going to keep the people coming into the border, gives more money so they can process them faster, probably so they can keep sending a couple 100,000 every month on jet planes from all over the world to the city of their choice. Amazing, amazing. But you try to get a free flight. Well, maybe you could get a free flight home. You just have to go to the right country. So if you're in one of these countries, just tell them you're an illegal alien. You want to go to whatever city you want to go to. You can get a free flight home. Yeah. Yes, hopefully that will all end next year for good, because this cannot continue. Can it? I hope not. The details. ERPO is not only a new department, it is a new set of laws that allows the federal government to prevent some people from owning a gun and also take guns away from anyone they deem an extreme risk. The problem lies in the government's assessment of extremism. President Biden says that anyone who supports the MAGA movement is extreme, so will that be used to determine who can and cannot have a gun? Well, yeah, if they want, or anyone who claims to be a Christian, especially if they're not a papal Christian. Yes, like Joe Biden. Joe Biden's a papal Christian. He belongs to the Antichrist Church. Representative Tom Massey calls it a federal red flag center. It lets the Justice Department decide who is an extreme risk and communicate that to law enforcement officials, prosecutors, attorneys, judges, clinicians, victim service and social service providers, community organizations, and behavioral health professionals. It also allows family members to report to ERPO concerns if they think a member of their household should not have a gun. Did they borrow this one from Orwell's 1984 on purpose? Yes, indeed. Goodbye, Mr. Johnson. We hardly knew ya. Very, very sad. I had a little bit of hope that this guy would be better than the last guy. A little bit of hope. And but I was kind of worried about his take on eschatology, because they could use that to get everything they want from him. Compromising. Yes, it is. Yes, he believes that Israel, the nation of Israel, should be supported no matter what, that those are God's chosen people out there, over there. But see, I know who God's chosen people really are. They are all of the elect, from Adam and Eve to the very day that we're living in, and all of the elect that will ever be. We are God's chosen people, the seed of Abraham, the seed of faith, not of flesh and blood. Okay. So Congress passed a $1.2 billion spending package on Friday, which may be the first and last major move. House Speaker Mike Johnson. The bill will fund the government through the end of the year. Johnson promised his party that would cut federal spending and redirect foreign aid to the southern border, but he accomplished exactly none of that. The Wall Street Journal reports that he worked alongside, I guess I forgot to hang that up, that he worked alongside more Democrats than Republicans to pass this bill. Yes, goodbye, Mr. Johnson. I think we need Chip Roy if they're going to have a speaker. He would be the one, because I heard him rail against the Republicans for passing this bill before they passed it, telling them exactly what they were passing, yet they passed it anyway. Very, very sad day for America. The Wall Street Journal reports that he worked alongside more Democrats than Republicans to pass this bill. Of course, he had to. If he wasn't working alongside Democrats, he wouldn't have passed it, likely. The bill includes more money for LGBTQ issues. It does. Chip Roy ran that all down the day before, that all that stuff was in there. Central bank digital currency continues. More money to study Chinese espionage. And, of course, directs boatloads of additional money to Israel. That's why he signed it, for Israel. He's compromised over Israel. Sad, sad day. Yes. As a reminder, Israel has a massive budget surplus and a space agency. So we need to borrow money to give it to them, because his false god, the god of the false prophecy interpretation that he follows is going to bless him or curse America if we don't give Israel money, even if they don't need it. Yes. Even if we have to violate God's law by borrowing money from our children to pay for it. And of course, support LGBTQ issues and bringing hundreds of thousands of more people over the border every month until the end of the year and paying for it. Yeah, I'm not very happy about it. This guy's worse than Kevin McCarthy, whichever his name is. Oh, SMT. Shauna's back in the chat room. Good to see you, Shauna. Says, hi, I called in. Oh, yes, that's right. Mick called in tonight. I got to hear his voice for the first time, and it was a very pleasant voice. God gave you a good voice, Mike. So use it for good. Let's see. What else do we got here? Yes. Oddly, it cut the FBI budget by $654 million and cut its construction account by 95%. And yet the FBI just gave itself sweeping new powers. See previous story. So how do you square that? Representative Tom Massey put out feelers for rejecting House Speaker Johnson, but the numbers don't look good. Yes, and they don't. Okay. Let's see. Get rid of that saggy chin and chicken neck. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what this is. This looks like that part's a commercial. But I guess the mystery continues. I thought the mystery was over with. Well, I guess we'll have to talk about that. Plus, we find something better to talk about in the next hour. I will be back in a few minutes. Not go anywhere.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on satellite, internet, or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Arthur, and I'd like to introduce you to my latest book, Reformed Prophecy Interpretation, an apology for Reformed premillennial historicism in the 21st century. As with primitive biblical Christianity, historicism is the method of prophecy interpretation restored with the advent of the Protestant Reformation, and had become so widely held that for a long time it was called the Protestant view. My book is not so much about the errors of dispensationalism or amillennialism. Rather, it is about the historicist alternative to understanding many of the same passages from the vantage point of prophecy fulfilled in history, for those that desire more than mere hypotheses, bolstered with conjectured speculation, those who require explicit biblical exegesis and verified historical fulfillment, and are not willing to accept speculation as anything other than what it is. Speculation, not truth. This book is for you. Over the last century, this method of interpretation has become almost completely forgotten, even by Protestants, in the face of a method that is based almost entirely on future speculation, rather than fulfilled prophecy and history. In my book, I examine the reasons for this and investigate some of the prophecy which has been fulfilled in the interim, as well as present an apology for Reformed premillennial historicism to the 21st century. If you're interested in a copy of my book, you can go to my website, crosstheborder.org, and get more information there. Or you may also find it at Amazon. Yes, I am really back. So, needed that. Okay, let's see, what were we talking about? Oh, Princess Kate mystery continues. I thought the mystery was over. So it says AI. This image is highly likely to be AI generated. Yeah. British monarch who released a video of Kate Middleton admitting that she is being treated for cancer. This might explain her absence from public life, but it does not explain all of the trickery as of late. It does not explain why the palace confirmed that she did not have cancer. It does not explain why the press told us that she was healthy and happy after a sighting last weekend. Who was that person? It does not explain why we can't see the unedited version of the Mother's Day photo. It does not explain why the two sightings on her recently were clearly different women, yet those doppelgangers were seen with her mother and husband. Why did they do all of that when they could have told us the truth? I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure I really care, but I guess there's a lot of questions for inquiring minds. So I think it's sad if anybody gets cancer, but you got to watch what you allow the sorcerers to do with you. Try to stay away from the sorcerers and their sorcery. Remember what the Bible calls sorcery. Do you not? That's pharmakia in the Greek. Okay, let's see. What's trending? Palm Sunday. Yes, had a debate about Palm Sunday. As a matter of fact, it was the latest video I put out of my on my Prophecy Reality channel was about Palm Sunday. When was the first coming of Jesus? And some would say at his birth, but no. In the Daniel prophecy, it says 69 weeks, or 7 weeks and 62 weeks, which is 69 total weeks of years unto Messiah the Prince, from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem. And he was, and that wasn't to Palm Sunday, as Sir Robert Anderson and all of the futurists believe, like our futurist guy who just sold us out for money for Israel. That's what he sold us out for money for Israel. And but they believe it was Palm Sunday, but that's problematic for their whole thesis. It tears down their whole thesis. Did you know that if Jesus came 3.5 years earlier, which he did, he was He was identified, as the prophecy said, 69 weeks unto Messiah the Prince. But Jesus did not qualify for the Messiah high priest position until he was 30 years old by the law. And Jesus did follow the law to the letter because he never sinned, ever. That's right. He never sinned ever. So he would have followed the law to the letter, and he couldn't be. The law requires a man to be 30 years of age before he can enter in as a high priest and perform as a high priest in the temple service, or make sacrifices, and or to forgive sin, because Jesus he didn't make any sacrifices except for himself, but he had the power to forgive sins, because they kept saying if he would forgive sins, they'd say only God has the power to forgive sins. Well, there's a big clue for you. But the problem with Palm Sunday being the day that they claim that he rode into town on a donkey as the king of Israel, well, he was the coming king, but he never took up a position as a king. The prophecy says unto Messiah the Prince. And even before he went to the cross, what did he say? He said, not my will. I mean, if there's any way, any other way, let this cup pass from me, but not my will, but thy will be done. So he was praying to his father as a prince. Nicholas, do you think King Melchizedek was possibly the father? It's a possibility that God the Father took the position as a priest, or was Melchizedek God when he appeared in the Garden of Eden? You know, I mean, that's kind of the question you're asking, Mike. I don't know what, I mean, I could have an opinion about it, but it would only be an opinion. So things that I really can't know and I can only have an opinion about, I tend to just kind of let them hang out there. But there are some things, like I do believe that that Christ was the high priest who appeared to Adam and Eve and clothed them with the skins. I believe that was pre-incarnated Christ, and told them about the seed of the woman. Now, I couldn't say positively, absolutely, was that Melchizedek? Well, it's not identified. But or would they be the same person? God the Father, pre-incarnate Christ, and Melchizedek, would they all be the same person? Well, those are things to think about. Yeah. And I really think that if Adam and Eve had looked at the hands of their high priest on that day when he clothed them with those skins, he made that sacrifice. That was a temporary sacrifice because the shedding of blood was required as a temporary offering until Christ himself would lay down his life. When he clothed them with those animal skins, would they, if they looked at his hands, would they have seen the nail scars? There's another question. So we have a lot of questions we can ask, and those questions will be answered one day, but I have a feeling that we're on the same track here. So, but yeah, it's something to think about. And everybody's thinking about it now. But yeah, being that it's that time of the celebration, the Passover celebration, the time of year that we celebrate the resurrection too. Of course, yeah, it's the Christian Passover. Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. So that's what I call the Christian Passover. As he says, as often as you meet, or as often as you want, when you're around with your family, and this weekend or whenever you get all your family together, break the bread, pass around a little cup of wine or something, and celebrate the Lord's Supper. Yeah. If you don't have anybody to celebrate with. So Palm Sunday was trending because that was yesterday, the first day of a Holy Week for Christians, culminating in Easter Sunday. In the Bible, Easter is mentioned once, but it's a reference to a pagan Roman holiday in the context. It's not to an Easter Christian holiday. Okay? Let's get that straight. Yeah, I studied the word. I know what it's talking about. Easter was not a Christian or Jewish holiday that was happening about the same time as Passover. It had more to do with the spring equinox, right? And the fertility goddess Ashtaroth. That's where we get the word Easter from, is from Ashtaroth. Yeah. Okay, what else is trending? Blake Lively, wherever he is trending because, she is, Blake, I guess that's a woman's name. She apologized for joining in on the Where's Kate trend. Yeah, sounds like they still have it going on here at Redacted. Where's Kate? And Max Verstappen is trending for winning or taking pole position at the Australian Grand Prix. There you go. Okay. Next, news by the numbers. 51. The age of Cameron Diaz, whoever she is, I don't know who these people are. She and her husband welcomed their first son this weekend. Good-looking couple, I guess. Whatever. They have a son. Their daughter was born via surrogate, so presumably this child was too. Well, that's weird. I guess there's something wrong with her uterus. So they have to have a surrogate. Say, Nicholas, do you think Melchizedek, he's fascinating King Melchizedek? Okay, off topic, but it's a topic that never goes away. So I don't know I have no idea who these people are, so whatever. But she's 51 years old. Must be nice to be young. Okay, $13.3 billion. That's how much investors have pulled from BlackRock in the last 2 years. Wow. The Financial Times reports that it's because investors are tired of being scammed by the ESG label. Yes, go woke, go broke. Seems to work. If you want to go broke, just go woke. Okay. 48%. That's how much shares of Reddit jumped after its IPO on Thursday. So I guess everybody's doing that, going public or whatever. I have no idea what an IPO is. I don't really care either. It's probably not going to help me out any. Seriously. Okay, FDA forced to apologize over ivermectin. Still in the news. The FDA had fun time poking fun at people for asking about ivermectin during the COVID-19 pandemic, but now they have to take down all of that condescending content as part of a court settlement. Most famously, in August 2021, the FDA tweeted, "You're not a horse." And just in case you didn't know. No, they were shaming people for taking ivermectin. Yes. You're not a cow. Serious. Yeah, I mean, I know horses. I've seen cows, and I definitely know I'm not one. So I've never had a cow yet. I like goat's milk, but cow's milk, I've had raw cow's milk too, and it's pretty good, I have to admit. I had a friend who had a dairy, so I got raw cow's milk then. This was a response to legitimate questions about ivermectin used to treat the thing. The NHS now admits ivermectin has been shown to inhibit the replication of the thing into cell cultures, but says that dosage is not appropriate, that the dosage is not appropriate for humans. Well, yeah, if you're taking enough for a, an 800 to 1,200 pound horse, I mean, anybody can figure that out. It says on the thing, it tells you how much you can, uh, go by the weight of your horse. I mean, I've given ivermectin to my dogs and cats. Just a little like BB size spot on their food is enough for a cat or a dog, a small cat or just a regular tabby cat. If you have a larger dog, you can give it a couple, BB size spots. But yeah, you don't take the whole horse dose. That might be problematic. Yeah. Let's see. The NHS now admits that ivermectin is shown to, yes, they did that. Even so, government health agencies funded people for asking about ivermectin when they asked social media to punish people for it. On YouTube, you could not say the word for the risk of having your channel punished. Oh, yikes, I just said it on YouTube. Oh, no. What will happen? Well, maybe they're going to let it slide now since it's in the news and everybody's saying it, except me, probably. They'll probably give me a strike for it. Yeah, I don't care. I've had strikes before. And if they take my channel down, oh, well, whatever. That means you guys will have to come over to Rumble then. This case was dismissed, but the plaintiffs had accused the FDA of interfering with their ability to practice medicine. Presumably, the FDA will not be allowed to do that again as it relates to ivermectin. The court ruled that even tweet-sized doses of personalized medical advice are beyond the FDA's statutory authority. And that's what we have from Redacted. Okay, we'll close that one out. It's always got some good news there. I like that. And let's see, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Who is God to RFK Jr.? And is this on his channel or someone else's? And why I'm against Fed's digital currency plan worries me. Well, why? Yeah. Well, yeah, for the same reason it worries me, I hope. So that's one, well, Donald Trump did say, but of course he said other things and didn't, like about, the jabs, he said, but yeah, having to do with RFK Jr. So that's one good thing about RFK Jr. is that I think he'll stand up against that and the other thing, the CBDC thing and the other thing. So those are two good things about him. But he's still for abortion, and he's still somewhat woke when it comes to the climate, though he might exercise some sanity to it. And he also expressed sanity when it comes to gun control. So he's more worried about all the people that do it are taking certain drugs. So need to do something about that. But who is God to RFK? Am I curious? He's a Catholic. So, and I wonder, well, some Catholics could be saved. Let's see, he's a cute little Easter rabbit. My grandson Sean is watching with me tonight, and he says hello. Well, hello, Sean. That's Shauna's grandson, Sean. And Poetic Justice, go woke, go broke comment. Oh, yeah, indeed. So, should we watch it? Should we see who RFK says? Let's do it. I'm kind of curious about who RFK's God is, who he says God is to him. So let me turn on the sound there. And
what is your relationship, and what is your understanding of God? Who is God? Most philosophers would say, well, we're inside the mind of God, and so it would be impossible for us to understand actually what God's form is. So then the question is, how do you start believing in something that you can't see or smell or hear or touch or taste or acquire with your senses? And Jung provides the formula for that, and he says, act as if you fake it till you make it. And so that's, what I started doing. I just started pretending there was a God watching me all the time, and kind of life was a series of tests, and there was a bunch of moral decisions that I had to make every day. And if I make a whole bunch of those choices right, I maintain myself in a posture of surrender, which keeps me open to my higher power, to my God. And when I do those things right, so much about addiction is about abuse of power. All of us have some power, whether it's good looks, or whether it's connections or education or family or whatever. And there's always a temptation to use those to fulfill self-will. And the challenge is, how do you use those always to serve instead God's will and the good of our community? And that, to me, is kind of the struggle. And when I do that, I feel God's power coming through me, and that I can do things. I'm much more effective as a human being. That gnawing anxiety that I lived with for so many years, and like, God, it's gone. And that I can kind of put down the oars and hoist the sail, and the wind takes me. And I can see the evidence of it every day of my life.
Well, not really what I would call reformed thought. So I would pray for Kennedy. Lord, please give him a hunger for your word, and let him read your gospel and understand the truth. Because you know what happens to Catholics when they read the Bible, right? They become Protestants. So that would be the best thing that could ever happen to him, is that he could read God's word and truly understand the gospel. I wish that for all, for Donald Trump too, and even Joe Biden. My God, that would be like the impossible conversion, and it likely is when you get to someone like Joe Biden, who has practiced evil his whole life and seems to have no moral compass whatsoever. Very sad thing to say about anybody. Okay, Epicus says good night. And okay, good night, Epicus. Thanks for hanging out for a while, man. Well, we got another half hour to go, and I'm gonna bring up that gonna talk a little bit about prophecy in the last half hour. That way I can cut it off and use it as a post on my my webpage, but do that in the last segment. So anyway, that was interesting what he had to say. At least he ventured to say something where most people will not speak. So I like a lot of his stands. And if the best we can expect is a Cyrus, well, it comes down to between Kennedy and Trump. And I really don't know who would be better. Yeah. I really don't know who would be a better president for America. So I'll leave it in God's capable hand. God knows who would be better, but he also knows what America needs. And God's people just need to pray. We all need to pray that God will have mercy on us, especially his people in this nation, and give us some relief, some pushback, and the power to roll back some of this that's going on in this nation, to get a relief and a stay from the turmoil. That, yeah. And the best thing we can do is pray and be obedient to God, and pray for him to help us with our obedience, because we know that we don't have the power to do it within ourselves. And even, Kennedy says you fake it till you make it. Well, that's kind of like how faith works in a way. Yeah. So it's like believing in something that's unbelievable. So you go, well, I have to believe in something that's unbelievable and then see if that works. Yeah, somewhat insightful, but nothing really new to us who really do know God. Sounds like he has a little bit of works mixed up in there, but works is our evidence that we belong to him. Because if there were no good works coming out of our relationship with God, out of what his Holy Spirit is doing in us through repentance, then we would have to question our salvation, definitely. And we should question our salvation anyway. There's nothing wrong with having your salvation challenged. You should welcome it. I know people are offended. That makes me worry about them if they're offended immediately, because I would question them just by asking, why do you think you're saved? Some people feel challenged and they don't like it. Yeah. And become offended. So then I just pray for them more, It gives me something more to pray for. So as we talk and walk by the way we pray as we go, that's another sign that you might be a Christian. Okay. Okay. The old phone number is not being used. Sounds well rehearsed, huh? What was well rehearsed? Oh, you mean the clip from Kennedy, huh? Maybe, maybe not. It looked like it might have been on the fly, or maybe he got the questions in advance. I don't know. Perhaps it wasn't rehearsed and it's just something he's well thought out in his mind with the trials and tribulations of his life as he expressed. So I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. Like I said, we can pray for him. That much we can do, especially as he might be our next president. He might be. I think his chances as good as Donald Trump's. Seriously. Just down to the wire to find out. Okay, don't go anywhere, there is more.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on satellite, internet, or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Okay, we are back. And I did find a news piece that I've talked about many years ago. And so it's back in the news, and it's even related to what began, supposed to have had something to do with the attack on Israel by Hamas. And you won't believe it, but it is over, where is that? Okay, now my browser's not clicking the tab. It's not opening the tab that I have. Okay, oh, it's waking up. Wake up, browser. Now it's doing the circle thing. There it is. A massive altar for the red heifer sacrifice has been constructed in Israel. Since the time of Moses, only 9 red heifers have been sacrificed. Now a massive altar for the 10th red heifer sacrifice has been built in Israel. There is a... Okay, now it won't scroll down. Yes. I don't like it when my browser doesn't work right, because I'm trying to do something here. Okay. And, all right, that's not fun. The browser is doing the circling thing. There it goes. The application is not responding. The program... program may respond. No, I'm going to cancel that. Oh boy. Do I have to say goodbye to my browser? Oh, there it is. Oh, there, it just restarted. Wow. It closed every other tab except the one I was looking at. And so my next tab, oh, I think there's a link in this tab to the next one. Anyway, since the time of Moses, only 9 red heifers have been sacrificed. Now a massive altar for the 10th red heifer sacrifice built in Israel, and there is a tremendous amount of speculation that it could happen soon. In September 2022, 5 red heifers were flown from the state of Texas to the land of Israel. Since that time, 1 of them has been disqualified, but the other 4 continue to be candidates for a red heifer sacrifice, as discussed last week. There was a practice run of the purification ceremony in 2023, but an official ceremony must be conducted before the heifers get too old to be used for the sacrifice. So will a red heifer be sacrificed in Israel in 2024? According to CBS, a massive altar has already been constructed in the video that I have embedded below. Okay. You can see the footage is all starting at the 2-minute mark. And I was absolutely floored when I saw that. Okay, so I'm gonna open this video up in another tab, yeah, because I found the video very instructive here. And let me get through this commercial first. Yeah. So we'll get back to that. The red heifer sacrifice would need to happen on the Mount of Olives, and the land where the sacrifice would take place is owned by Rabbi Yitzhak Mamo. According to these working on the project, the ceremony of red heifer needs to be performed on the Mount of Olives, the land directly east of the Temple Mount. He owns Yitzhak Mamo owns the land. Mamo is with Divine Jerusalem, a group that preserves Israel's history and works to educate future generations. Let's go. Let's see. We can skip that now. And
Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, killing almost 1,200 people and taking nearly 230 hostage, some still in captivity. Despite the deadly outcome across the region, one trigger for the Hamas rampage has been widely overlooked. Chris Livesay has the story from Jerusalem.
The infamous October 7 massacre that sparked a war. But one confounding yet eye-opening motive has escaped the headlines. In a recent speech, a Hamas spokesman blamed the Jews for bringing red cows to the Holy Land. The cows he's talking about at a secure, undisclosed location are these, red heifers, to be precise. Some Jews and Christians believe they're the key to rebuilding the historic Jewish temple in Jerusalem and to beckoning the Messiah. To understand, you have to go back nearly 2,000 years when the ancient Romans destroyed the last temple in the city. To rebuild it, these believers point to the Bible's book of Numbers. It commands the Israelites to sacrifice a red heifer without defect or blemish, and that has never been under a yoke. Only then can the temple rise again. Caring for them on an Israeli settlement in the West Bank is Yitzhak Mamo.
So we have here, after a long research, we find in Texas.
In Texas?
Yeah, Texas, United States of America.
Texas Red Angus, flying them 7,000 miles to Israel.
This is not a publicity stunt.
What do you mean?
Meaning, this is something you take very seriously.
Harry Potter is a good story. The Bible is not story. The Bible is a way of God to lead us.
A massive altar already awaits, where the heifers are to be burned.
According to some believers, the ceremony needs to be performed right here on the Mount of Olives, looking directly into where the temple once stood. But something else now stands in its place.
The Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, among the holiest sites in Islam. Today, only Muslims are allowed inside, but that's not stopping Jewish activists outside.
Once you got, you started here.
6 days a week, Melissa Jane Kronfeld leads groups from around the world who defiantly pray, as close as armed guards permit.
It's not about the destruction of Islamic holy sites. It's about preserving this place and being guardians over the house of God for all people.
So you're happy with it where it is?
No, it's going to go 100%, but I believe
it's going to go.
It's 100%, yeah. The whole thing is going to go. We have to build a temple.
When you say that Dome of the Rock has to go, MJ, it's hard for me to imagine something more incendiary.
Well, let me ask you something. The Middle East seems pretty destabilized right now, and the war, if I'm not mistaken, is already here.
To be clear, hers is a dream not shared by the Israeli government or by the vast majority of Israelis and Jews, but it's been enough to incite numerous Islamist groups. Hamas has dubbed its October 7 assault on Israel the Al-Aqsa Wave and has the Dome of the Rock on its emblem. But this is sacred ground to billions of Muslims globally, not just Hamas terrorists, stresses Imam Mustafa Abu Sway of Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Al-Aqsa Mosque belongs to all Muslims. So you'll find reaction from Indonesia to Toronto to New York. That's really given. Al-Aqsa Mosque belongs to all Muslims, and the Muslims today are 2 billion people. 2 billion people.
Simply by performing these acts, are these Jewish activists kicking a hornet's nest?
They are. They are.
A hornet's nest they're kicking all the way to Capitol Hill.
So good to see you here in the nation's capital.
Those sacred cows were showcased in Washington at a recent prayer gathering. Many evangelicals believe these red heifers will usher Christ's second coming.
And we need the Messiah to come, right? So for me, the red heifer, it's red for the blood of Jesus Christ.
Back in the West Bank, Mamo says the ceremony could take place any day.
But can you understand why Hamas could be outraged by something like this?
I cannot understand that even if they are right, why they have to slaughter and rape people to win their war.
Terrorists have been attacking us before we ever dreamed of these cows, he reflects. They don't need them as an excuse to kill. For CBS Saturday Morning, Chris.
Okay, well, there you have it. The red heifers are in Israel, and Hamas is very angry, and they want it stopped because it's supposed to bring in the Jewish Messiah. Well, Jesus is coming not on a red heifer schedule. He's not coming back on a rapture schedule. He's coming back on God's schedule, okay? And it's not going to be around one of those raptures either. I don't know how many of you watch my broadcast during the week, during Wednesday mornings, but we'll be talking more about this come Wednesday morning and other things having to do with it, which I talked about a little bit earlier. We were talking about the Daniel prophecy and the difference between the coming of the Messiah at his baptism or at his Palm Sunday. That's right, his triumphal entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday as king. But he was not coming as king on that day, as they say. And as if you watched my video last week, where I'm dealing with Jack Hibbs, it was over the same issue, the timing of the coming of the Messiah. Because if the Messiah came when I say he came, okay, 3.5 years earlier than Palm Sunday, then that dispels their whole treatise. It just falls to pieces. But they have a problem, see? And the problem is they don't want to face it. They won't talk to me or debate me about it, and they won't answer to it because they can't hear it. Even if you say it to them, they can't hear it. Because if it's true, as they say, if what they say is true, and the coming of Christ, the first coming of Christ, was on Palm Sunday, then the prophecy is wrong. Because because he actually showed up 3.5 years earlier in the middle of the 69th week as both Messiah and Prince. But he's not supposed to show up until the 70th week. Therefore, the 70th week did start 3.5 years earlier. And we know that he was Messiah, high priest Messiah, because he was forgiving sins. And see, Christ fills all three offices, prophet, priest, and king. So he came as the prince, not as king, because that's why the prophecy says, unto Messiah the prince. And he will not be king on the earth physically. He wasn't then. He was the prince. It was the prince, the Son of God, who laid down his life. Remember, God gave his only begotten Son. It doesn't say he gave up the king. He gave his only begotten Son. So he was still prince when he laid down his life. And the Father said to him, sit at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. So he's still at the right hand of he's still the Son at the right hand of the Father until he makes his enemies his footstool. But he is coming as king when he returns. The first time he came as prince, the Son of God, and high priest, Messiah. So he fulfilled both offices well, prophet and priest, because he did both. He prophesied and he acted as high priest, forgiving sins and making the ultimate sacrifice, laying down his own life. What a high priest we have, right? He laid down his own life for our sins. But when he comes back, he's coming back as king over the whole earth, and he will rule and reign. And see, that's what the amillennials want to take away from Jesus. They say, oh, he's ruling in heaven right now. Seated at the right hand of the Father? No, Jesus said, I will build my church. And that's what he's been doing for the last 200 years. as high priest of his church. And we already know he's our king. He's the king of the kingdom of God, but it's a spiritual kingdom. It hasn't manifested on earth yet, unless it manifests through us. But we're not ruling the earth. When he comes back, he said, my kingdom is not of this world. His kingdom is not flesh and blood. But when he comes back, he will rule as king on the earth. So that's what the difference is in the first coming of Christ, whether it was at the Jordan River baptism, as I believe and as the prophecy says, because that was where he was first identified as both Messiah and Prince, publicly identified as both Messiah and Prince at his baptism, when he turned 30 years old, because it's also written in the Gospels, it's recorded there by Luke. One of the projects that God gave to Luke to put in his Gospel, to verify his Gospel as canon, was that Jesus began to be about 30 years old, it said. So he was in his 30th year, qualifying him for the high priest position that he was taking on, to forgive sins and to ultimately perform the ultimate sacrifice once for all. Okay. So that's what we have. And it shocked me to learn that these Hamas terrorists refer to Israel getting ready to sacrifice these cows, and their objection to the red cows that they're going to sacrifice. They do not like it at all. And that's why when they build their temple building on the Temple Mount, it will be even worse. That's why I believe when they move the Abraham Accord in the Temple Mount, that they will do away with the sacrifice part of it, because Islam won't have it. And of course, with the Abraham Accord thing, neither Islam or the anti-Christian church will have it, because Islam won't have it, as they've already demonstrated by attacking Israel over it. That was one of their main objections, why they say they began this war on October 7th. And the Catholic Church won't have it, because they already have their bloodless sacrifice, the transubstantiation miracle of Christ coming a wafer, and the power that the priest has to do that, and that actually becomes him. That's why the Catholic Church still has Jesus on the cross, because they're controlling their Messiah, their Christ, which is a different Jesus. It's one they create through their miracle of transubstantiation. Of course, a false miracle. So, and they keep Christ on the cross when we know that he rose from the dead. He was taken down from the cross. He said, "It is finished." He is not on the cross anymore. He's not continually being sacrificed through their mass every week. So, anyway, that was very interesting. And they've set up this altar now. It looks like they're going to do it. And then, so they don't really need to do the sacrifice on the Temple Mount, because they can do the sacrifice anywhere. They did it in a tent, in a movable tabernacle before. So they will agree. They will agree to do away with the sacrifice in the middle of the phony 70th week of Daniel that's coming up, just to fulfill the prophecy. And I think after this war and after everything is calmed down, that they will get back to the business that the Antichrist has with the Abraham Accords, working on that with Israel and all of the Arab neighbors. They will complete it. It will be done. Yeah, most likely. But it will not be a real temple. It will most likely be nothing more than a national synagogue on the Temple Mount for the Jews. And of course, they have to have a cathedral, a Catholic cathedral of some sort there too. Probably limited in size because of the size and scope, kind of like the other Abraham Accords. They will all be about the same size. So you probably, to attend Mass there, you'll probably have to have a ticket to get in. Yeah. So, and the same thing with the Jewish temple. It will be limited size. Like I said, it won't really be a temple because there will be no sacrifice there. They'll do away with that sometime in the middle of their agreement to build the Abraham Accord, or the three Abrahamic phase house accord on the Temple Mount. That's what it looks like it's going to happen if they get their way. And whether they will or not, whether it really happens or not, we can only live and see, because the scripture really doesn't tell us anything about that. Now, when Christ returns, and when he does return at the beginning of the the end of the sixth millennium, beginning of the seventh, which is about the year 2055, and that was another thing that I had more confirmation of my date this week. The calculation that I came to, I found out that my calculations, because we're in 100% agreement with the Geneva Bible and their calculations at the end of the book, although I thought they were off, but they weren't. And basically what it was, my friend WW, who follows that, he said that because their calculation in the end of the Geneva Bible, if you go to the last page there, they have a supputation of the years of the Bible from the creation, and their count was exactly 30 years off mine. And I found out why. Because in the end of the book, they took the 483, the Daniel 70 weeks countdown, not to Messiah the Prince at his baptism, but to the birth of the Messiah. Okay? But if you go to their notes on the Daniel 70 weeks prophecy in the text, they do point to the baptism. So someone got it wrong in the back, but they got it right in the notes in the Daniel prophecy itself. So I found out that I was right, and someone got it wrong in the back of the book on the in the Geneva Bible. So that means that they would have had it. That's why my friend WW had it 30 years before me, because they were going off of his birth date instead of the unto Messiah, his baptism date. So it is not 2025 as he was saying, and now he knows that I was right, but it also confirmed my calculations, because they came to, by another route, but using the same years that they found in the Bible, by another route, came to the exact same date, to where it says the decree or the commandment to restore and rebuild Jerusalem and begin the 483-year count. They did to the birth, but I say it's to the Messiah, to the baptism date. And that's where they got the 30 years difference. So they had theirs 30 years before me, so they would expect the seventh millennium to begin next year, where I'm saying it's 30 years later, because the calculation goes 30 years later to his appearance and baptism date, when he appeared and was publicly announced as both Messiah and Prince, because God announced him the Prince. He said, "This is my son." If that's not an announcement that he's the Prince. And then John the Baptist and Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, it's both testified that he was the Messiah at that same time. So that was the day unto Messiah the Prince, the day of the beginning of the 70th, the Messiah's week, and the end of the 69th week. Okay, well, I'm just about out of time. No comments, no questions about that. But yeah. So it was a nice confirmation. If you wonder what I'm talking about, if you go to my website, well, I do have it up here. Just opened up another window. Okay. If you go to my website, if you haven't seen that, you go to my website, you go to my homepage here, and you'll see it up in the upper right-hand corner, right over there, right there where you see the globe. It says, "What year is it?" So check it out for yourself. And yeah, I think that God led me in the right direction in developing that. So it's really nice to have confirmation of something that I actually finished this 10 years ago, because that is the date. You can see from my summary chart at the bottom, 2015 was the date I finally finished this with updating all of the charts and everything. In 2015 was 5960, so it would be 10 years later. Next year will be 5970, leaving 30 years to the new millennium. The millennial reign of Christ. Yay. Well, that's all we have time for today. May the Almighty bless you and keep you as you travel on the narrow way that leads to life. I'll see you next time. Secrets of the Rapture. Is there a 500-year-old conspiracy? A propaganda machine so pervasive and entrenched, yet so elusive that the entire world could be taken in by it, working in plain sight, but unseen by the world for what it truly is? If prophecy is God-given history in advance, why does the prophecy that has conquered the age also exclude nearly 2,000 years of history? What is it that they are afraid that the light of history will reveal? To understand our place in time and prophecy, we must look in history for an interpretation, that which stands the test of time, that which agrees with the Word of God, and history has proven to be true. When cunning fables and fearful speculations are removed from our sight, then we may clearly see what is truly expressed in Bible prophecy, both that which has been fulfilled and that which has yet to come. God's express word is the sword that must be wielded to remove the scales from the eyes and dispel the darkness of deceitful conjecture. Secrets of the Rapture was written to expose that which the spirit of the age has conjured out of the darkness to blind the eyes of the church in the world today. Secrets of the Rapture, deconstructing pre-tribulation.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Initial examinations of the body of a missing college student.
An exorbitant bond on Donald Trump as he defends his real estate holdings related to his New York civil fraud case. Here's AFN's Chad Groening.
A New York appeals court has handed former President Donald Trump a victory when it agreed to hold off collection of more than $454 million imposed by trial judge Arthur Engoron in the case brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James. The appeals court also reversed other aspects of the trial judge's ruling that had barred Trump and sons Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. from serving in corporate leadership for several years. The ruling was granted when Trump agreed to pay $175 million within 10 days. Gary Bowers, chairman of the Campaign for Working Families.
I'm glad that the bond has been lowered. It's still ridiculous, and it doesn't change anything in the sense that